dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat with somebody. Okay, yeah, wonderful. We made it in. We made it into the Zoom. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Siobhan, and boy, it has been a real time, and I'm so happy to see you all on this month of March of 2024, which is absolutely bananas. So this is a home studio show and tell. So the way this is going to work tonight is that we're going to communicate with our lovely guest stars of this space in the Zoom chat. Your chat will be to the right of your screen if you are on your desktop. If you are on mobile, it's a much bigger pain in your tush, and so good luck to you with that. Now, we do have this currently is being streamed to you in a gallery mode, probably. You are welcome to watch this in speaker, then you get to blow up everybody's faces and we all look so cute, so that's a good idea. However, I will be spotlighting people for you and guiding your journey a little bit tonight as folks show their way around. Now, yes, and you can say hello. Hello, David from New Zealand. All right. We got the Kiwis and the Aussies in the house, and we really love to see it. This is quite a lot of time zones. I don't even want to think about what time it is for everyone. Okay, so that being said, to my guest stars, you are both co-hosts of this Zoom, so you are able to mute and unmute yourselves or share a screen if you want, or whatever kinds of things. Everyone else, I've swiftly taken away all of your privileges. The only thing you can do is start a video and chat and rename. You cannot unmute yourself, and that is not because we don't love you. It's just a horrible racket to have to hear people to try to speak on top of each other on Zoom, as you all know. Tim, it's great to see you from Virginia. It really is. I hope you're well. So with that being said, you've already heard him give his a bit of a preamble intro. But Mr. David Goldberg, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday night?
I am great. Yeah, it is crazy that it's March.
Yeah.
Yeah, the time really does go fast. And your necklace is fabulous. Super cool.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should all wear something like that. Remember, Siobhan, probably about 10 or even 15 episodes ago, there was an episode or two with everyone had the pink headphones. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Like someone had them on, and then the
Yeah.
next episode, a bunch of people wore them. That was fun.
And I have them because I have them too. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah. Yeah, I don't
Listen,
have them.
I know. Well, David, we got to get you fitted out, clearly. We got
Yeah, might
to
be. Yeah.
for your online presence here. Okay, so that being said, okay, so I think we all understand how this works at this point, but if you don't, we're going to explore some home studios here in our Edge Studio community. And by explore, I mean that someone is going to share their space with us. By sharing their space with us, it is our intent to gain inspiration and insight from what they are sharing. It is not our objective tonight, unfortunately, to solve all of your potential home studio problems specifically, that we just can't do that. There's just no physical way. But you do get to ask them questions and they will share in detail, and we can really nerd out and geek out about how people are doing stuff. And if you have further questions, of course, I will give you links for where you can get those questions answered for your own personal home studio consultation, which I highly recommend. So that being said, I do have so I have Sarah and I have Todd, and I'm usually like QRST. Okay, so just alphabetical order from the first name. I think that would start with Sarah. I think Sarah, you would be the one who's going to go first if you are ready. And if you're ready, okay, great. She's ready. We'd love to see it. So, Sarah, if I may, just to begin, I think sometimes it's really helpful for people if they know a little bit about your voiceover journey. So, like how did you get into voiceover to the place that it brought you, that you are here stuck talking to me on Zoom on this, in this moment?
Yeah, okay. Well, I started out as an actor. I studied acting at university. I was a professional theatre actor for about 10 years. And during that time, I discovered voiceovers via another friend of mine who was also an actor, and just had me tag along to one of their voiceover sessions. And it was there that I met some people who got my phone number and rang me a few weeks later and asked if I would like to come in for a VO, and it just sort of went on from there. Basically, I don't I don't do theatre acting anymore. The thought of stepping on a stage and performing in front of hundreds of people scares the absolute life out of me these days. So I'm very, very happy doing this full time. I can fit it in around my kids and around my home life. So this is where I'm at now, and that's kind of how I got here.
Sarah, what kind of work do you do?
I started doing commercials and only commercials for quite a long time, and then I was just being booked through my agent, who was also a theatre agent, and eventually the work started morphing into other genres, promotional type genres, so explainer videos or a little bit of corporate narration. But these days I also do audiobook narration. I do video game characters. Still doing a lot of commercials, a lot of explainers, a lot of e-learning now is a really big part of my general recording schedule most days. Telephone on hold messages are also a big part of my life. That's about it. Yeah, they're the main ones.
One quick question. What's your favorite genre to work in?
Probably audiobook narration, which is really interesting because I avoided that like the plague for a very long time because I just thought it looked terribly laborious, and I was so used to doing commercial work, and it was in and out, wham bam, 30-second scripts. The pace was amazing. And then I ended up auditioning for an audiobook really just for the exercise, for a bit of feedback from someone via an agent that I had at the time, and I booked that job. And I did the whole thing here in my studio via Source Connect with the studio down in Sydney. And I loved it. I loved the pace of it. I remember just coming out on little breaks and just floating around the house because I was just so relaxed. And, having 3 children, I don't get a lot of time to read for recreation, and I was all of a sudden being allowed to explore a whole story, and at a pace that was really, it just felt like such a luxury to me. So I know they don't pay very well, but gee, they're very good for my mental health.
Important note to everyone. If you're like, can I make bank on audiobooks? You heard it here, okay? Just to be clear. Sorry, David, you were going to ask a question.
No, not a question, just a statement. That is fabulous. Of all the bios I've heard, yours rocks the most. That's great. I'm so happy for you. Yeah, to work in different genres, find where you belong, feel good about it. That's terrific. I wish that upon every voice actor. So let's see your studio.
Okay. Shall I flip my camera?
Yeah, whichever. Yeah, however you think we'll see it the best, or we can guide you through that also. Oh, I know. Do you mean to the other camera, like the front or the back of the camera? Yeah,
like
do that. Yeah.
Oh, we go. Okay. Cool.
I thought you meant horizontally versus
Oh no,
laterally. Sorry.
I just meant yeah, okay. Well, this is where should we start?
Well, Sarah, you're going to move slowly and steadily to keep us all from getting vertigo. Yes.
I will.
Very good.
We about a year ago we extended our house a little bit, and so with that in mind, we built a room specifically for me to house my my recording booth in. So this room was built specifically for me to do my work, which is amazing because who doesn't want to have their own workspace in their home? So we started with this weird little kind of alcove non-space here, and the doors are solid wood, so solid timber doors just to keep the noise out. That's the lounge room, that's a bedroom, and then I come in here and I close this door, and it's really magnificent. So my best friend, one of my best friends did that for me, and that's my main brand color, which I like looking at. No one else really sees that except for me when I open the door of my recording booth. So this is a Demvox Eco 100 sound isolation booth that I had imported from Barcelona, of all places, back in 2016. We looked around we looked at all of our options, and this one was the best for me. We decided because it looked pretty easy to put together, and I'm not a terribly handy person, and it looked pretty foolproof in terms of putting it together, and then also being able to relocate it, pull it apart and relocate it. So we've obviously done that, relocated it once to move it into here after this room was finished. I can tell you that I really love the fact that it has a silent a ventilation system. So you've probably seen these before, but it's just a little box that draws cool air in here through this big fat snaky thing, and that cool air comes out here to keep me nice and cool in booth, and the hot air is being drawn out of this one here. So
Sarah,
yeah,
I just want to talk briefly about the ventilation, because this
sure.
is a topic that comes up it's a concern even for a lot of voice actors, because booths get very hot. And when you're narrating a short piece like a commercial, it's okay. You can open up the door in between takes. But when you're working on a long form narration like an audiobook, that ventilation is really key. So I have a couple of questions. It's really hard, almost impossible, to get the fan to run quietly enough that the microphone won't pick it up, unless you have a very high-end fan system and you're using a very directional microphone. But you're not using a very directional microphone. It looks like a TLM 103. I'm not sure, but at least okay.
Yes, it is
So
a
that
TLM 103, but I
so
do have a Sennheiser that I pop on when I need to.
But I would assume that when you're narrating an audiobook, you're on the TLM 103 and not the Sennheiser.
I've used both for
You've used
audiobooks.
a Sennheiser for an audiobook.
Yeah,
That's tough, isn't it? Because you need to stay so still relative to the microphone.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's great. If you can do
Yeah.
that, that's terrific. So with your TLM 103 though, that picks up a lot of the room. Does it pick up your ventilation, or do you have to shut it off while you're recording?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't pick it up.
Wow,
It
that's
doesn't pick it up.
fantastic.
I
What
mean, I
about
can tell you that when we had this booth out in my lounge room, we at some point my husband rearranged things and he brought the ventilation box, which houses the fan, much closer to the booth. So that snake thing that I showed you, this thing, I don't know what you call it, that was quite bunched up. It was quite concertinaed, and oh my goodness, yes, I said to him, you've got to move it back. It's not working. I can hear it. I can hear the fan. It's terrible. So the further away the ventilation box is, the more you stretch out that snake, the less noise you're going to hear from the fan, and the more condensed, the more concertinated that snake is, the more, yeah, you definitely will hear the fan for sure. I have experienced it firsthand when the booth was in a different room.
Okay, that's great. That's very rare that you can run a fan like that. And what about the exhaust up top? Is that also run by a fan, or is that just a duct, like an open duct?
No, it's just an open duct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is great though. So yeah, can we see more of the inside of the booth? It looks like you've treated the booth very nicely.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm experimenting with a little bit of extra treatment at the moment. So, and it seems to have made quite a difference in here. I don't know what else I can show you really.
Can we see?
All
Well,
all of the cords can go through here.
that's
So
great.
That's great. Unscrewed that. So all the cords go in there to the outside.
And show us your lighting, because lighting is also an issue for a lot of people. A lot of the booths don't necessarily come with great lighting, and you have to either purchase separate lighting from the booth company or your own. It looks like, so these are put in, are these from the manufacturer?
Yeah, these just came with the booth. Um, I think originally we had this lighting panel over on this side, and I can't tell you why. I rearranged it, but I did. That's not very helpful, is it?
Yeah, what
Yeah,
what is that?
but that's me.
What is
Like
that that we're
I
looking at? Oh,
beg your
that's
pardon?
a towel behind the monitor or something.
Behind the monitor.
Yeah,
What's that?
what is behind your monitor? It looks like
Um,
a thick towel or something.
oh, right. Yeah, okay. No, this is that's a rug. That's just a
Oh,
rug.
okay.
So there's a mirror behind there, but I don't need the mirror. I kind of liked having the mirror when this booth was in my lounge room because it meant I could keep an eye on my very young children.
Hmm.
But now that we've got it in here, I there's absolutely no need. Sorry, am I saying mirror? I mean window. Um, yeah, and so there's no need for that anymore. So I've just hung a rug there just to sort of, try to avoid reflection from that.
Okay, that makes sense. This looks really nice. So what is it? Oh, show us your equipment, please.
Okay, well, I have an Audient ID14 interface, um, and I'm on my 103 at the moment with just a pretty standard pop filter. And I'm using Biodynamic DT 770 Pros.
Okay, terrific. And what DAW are you on?
I normally use Twisted Wave, usually, and when I'm not using Twisted Wave, I will use Audacity.
Yeah, there was a while that Twisted Wave was really sort of innovative. There were apps for your phone and things. It was very fun for a while. So why would you go back and forth between Twisted Wave and Audacity?
So the only real reason that I go back and forth is when I've booked an pretty much just on hold work, messages on hold where the client wants me to add the music bed, and I can't do that in Twisted Wave.
Okay.
So I pop over to Audacity and I do it. I do it in Audacity. That's pretty much it. I am not a technical person. It's a miracle that I've even been able to turn my camera on to do this Zoom session today. Yay for me. Yeah, sending emails is a miracle for Sarah. So the fact that I can use any of this equipment at all is just something that I'm very grateful for.
So now, okay, in your booth, you have a keyboard, but is there also a computer in your booth, or is that running the key? Is the keyboard in your booth running the computer out where you are right now?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, so that's a little wireless, just a wireless keyboard, and it connects to my little MacBook Air.
So when you record with a client, you hit record out. Oh no, you can hit record from your booth from the wireless keyboard.
Yeah, that's
Of
right. I
course.
can hit
Yeah, yeah.
record.
Oh, that's terrific.
I need to do in here, um, without the MacBook Air, because occasionally it kind of decides to have a little bit of a party. And so we decided to go wireless with the keyboard and the mouse so that I could, not have to deal with those parties that the MacBook decides to throw every now and then.
Do you edit on headphones or speakers?
Usually with my cans. Yeah, I bring them
Yeah.
out and I plug them in to my book here, MacBook.
This is great. This what's so nice about your system, Sarah, is that it is simple. It's
Very
a,
simple.
it's so straightforward. It works. I'm sure. I mean, knowing the volume of work you do, it's got to work just so well. And should be an inspiration for people that you can experiment with different types of foam and get a good sound and just run something very straightforward. And like a 103 is a great mic. It's and with a good interface, and I mean you're in business. That is great.
Yeah,
I'd like to know.
absolutely. When I first started, when I say when I first started, what I mean is when I first started recording voiceovers from home, because for the first 15 years, I never recorded anything from home. So when I first kind of bit the bullet and started recording from home, I was on an Apogee mic, plugged into my phone using the Twisted Wave app, and I would literally have my husband kind of push me into not even a walk-in wardrobe, but I mean a built-in cupboard with clothes hanging everywhere. And I would take a lamp in, and we would run an extension cord. Like, honestly, it was just the roughest situation. And I would send those files to my agent, and I would get paid for that work, which was ridiculous. So things were very rough for me for a few years before I decided to finally, bite the bullet and invest in something that, was far, far more comfortable than recording in amongst, a Narnia closet.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to go, right? To take your income and reinvest it in your business.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'd like to know if anyone has questions for Sarah. Oh, someone asked, what is your noise floor? That's a great question. I'm still curious about your noise floor given your ventilation booth.
Yeah, okay. Well, the noise floor, it depends what microphone I'm on. The noise floor when I'm on the Sennheiser, I can get a noise floor of around about -70. And
Wow.
when I'm on the TLM, it's not quite -60. It's usually somewhere around -57 or 58.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
contribute the difference to the quality of the mic or just how much room it picks up?
Yeah, I think, well, probably just the second thing, the TLM is an omnidirectional microphone, so it's probably just picking up a lot more of the room, whereas the Sennheiser, you can it's unidirectional, so it's just a quieter mic in general, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Other questions for Sarah?
My question, Sarah, is when you said I love the candor, thank you, and you're like, it's a miracle that I can send emails. Less. So would you mind just telling us a little bit about like how did it take you a while to get comfortable? Did you have anxiety starting to sort of, record and edit your own audio? Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about
Yeah, absolutely. I was a mess. I was a mess. I was a mess when my agent would ring and say, "Can you record? Can you record? You've booked a job and when that client wants it tomorrow, or we've got an audition. It's a voiceover audition, but you need to record. You need to record the audition from home." Yeah, completely. So stressful. It really stressful because I was locking myself away in a cupboard as well, and it was hot and I couldn't breathe, and I was also having to hold the script, and the paper was making noise and not coping at all. So being able to reduce all of those stressors was a huge help for me. And then there was a massive learning curve, and I'm still on that learning curve, and I will always be on that learning curve in terms of using equipment and software. I am not it doesn't come naturally to me. None of this stuff comes naturally to me. What comes naturally to me is the performance side of things. That comes very naturally to me. I'm good with my microphone technique, but when it comes to like any of the files I send are really either raw or so lightly processed, or I'm using what do you call them? An editing stack that I have paid audio engineers to build specifically for my voice on a specific microphone. Okay, so I am not I'm not an audio engineer. I never will be. I don't want to be. And I have loads of, like, I'm full time. I'm the main breadwinner in my family. And I don't have those audio engineering skills, and I don't feel like I need them. I'm doing fine with what I know, and when I outsource stuff. I've paid people to make me the editing stacks. I don't edit my own audio books. I never will. I don't have that sort of time. That I would rather pay pass that work on to someone else who's going to be far, far better at it than I ever will be. Does that answer the question?
It's a great answer. And, one of the nice things about using an outside editor is that you're probably paying them a lot less than you earn when you record. So because you are able to pay an editor to do the editing work, then you can spend more time recording, and ultimately it's still a far better scenario. So
Yeah,
a
I
lot
can.
of voice actors do that.
Yeah, that's right. And I can move on. I can move on to other jobs. So, like, like we already established, audiobook narration. It's not a huge payer. But I do get a lot of creative satisfaction out of that particular genre. But not having to labor through the editing and the mastering means I can move on to other genres that pay better.
Hmm. And for the record, I think for most people, an audiobook narrator still earns more per hour on average than most people who work a retail job. Like it's still like it
Oh
doesn't pay
yeah,
as well necessarily as a national commercial, but there's still some nice money. And because it can be 10 or 20 or 30 hours of work continuously, I mean, it's at the end, there's a pretty nice paycheck. So
yeah.
it's still good.
Okay, there's many questions. We have a couple minutes for questions, and if not, we'll catch up at the end if we have time. I'm curious. Okay, so we'll just start in order. Dave is asking, if you have any insight, maybe you don't. How is the world of VO different in Oz than you say, than USA or Europe?
Well, it's a smaller market here in Australia. For obvious reasons. Rates can be, and because of that, sometimes because of the difference in population size, the rates can be quite different. But also generally, the rate guides that a lot of voiceover artists try to stick to here. The rate guide set by our union, the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, which is nowhere near as powerful as your union in the States to start with, let me just say. And the rate, I believe personally that the rate guide set by the MIA, the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance here in Australia, is fairly outdated and they haven't allowed for the rise of the home studios that has happened, since I started doing VO 22, 23 years ago. So most voiceover artists these days have home studios, but our rate guide, our union rate guide, was designed around the concept of a voiceover artist leaving their house, driving to an external studio, being booked for 1 hour in that studio, and then leaving, and the job was done. So, and that, as we all know, is very often not the case. Majority of the work I do here is in that booth. I very occasionally have to drive to a studio to record something, and it's so annoying, to be perfectly honest, because I get in my car and think, I could have done that at home. We could have source connected. We could have had a Zoom. So much time was wasted. So much, a much bigger carbon footprint was created. We all, all of the stakeholders, we could have all just had a Zoom call. We didn't all have to get into cars and drive to the studio for everyone to feel involved in the session. So I think home studios here in Australia, while they are far more prevalent, we're still behind in a lot of ways. A lot of big buyers, big decision makers, your bigger advertising agencies here in Australia, they still really kind of are hanging on to that concept of schmoozing in person, in the control room, everybody sitting around on the couch and just making a real song and dance about the voiceover recording session, which you can actually do virtually. You don't have to all be in the same room. So there's still a lot of education, I think, needed generally in the industry, especially in the higher end part of the industry, where people are hanging on to some pretty old school ideas and concepts. And then rates in general for me, I'm an independent voiceover artist these days. I started with an agent, and all the work that I did was through my agent for the industry standard rates. I then moved to what I thought was a bigger, better agent, my dream agent, and I was with that agent for about 2 years. And then I decided, you know what, I actually think I'm going to be a happier person if I am just completely independent and finding the work wherever I want to find it without feeling like I'm being judged by anyone, accepting rates that I am happy to accept, setting my own rates when clients come to me directly. If I want to slap on an extra fee for, I don't know, whatever reason, I will. and I have that sort of that autonomy, and I have that agency now, which is something that I never had with an agent. So I also think one of the big differences is that Australian voiceover artists, a lot of them still feel like they have to have an agent. It's this thing, got to have an agent, got to have an agent. You don't need to have an agent. Not here in Australia. You can absolutely do it without one.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much. I feel if we're okay, fam, we'll get back to more questions for Sarah if we have the moment. And I just want to, Sarah, thank you for answering so many questions and being so open and honest and sharing your space with us. It is absolutely wonderful to have you. So we really appreciate you.
Wait, one super quick question. Do your kid, you said 3 kids you have, do they do voiceover now?
Everyone that lives in this house does voiceover. You can't live in this house unless you work in that box.
That's great.
Yeah.
I will say this to you, Sarah, and to everyone who watches this. About 3 or 4 episodes ago on Home Studio Show and Tell, we had a father who has 4 kids, and their episode is on our website. I think it may be episode 15 or 16. His 4 kids, these 4 siblings, began doing voiceover during the pandemic when everyone was being homeschooled. They've now passed 1,200 jobs in that booth, and their oldest daughter has gone off to college, but she's close by. She has a portable setup in her college dorm, and when she has a really high-end job, she travels the half hour back to their home to do it in their isolated studio. Guys, you should all watch this episode. It's inspirational. It's a small room in their basement, and the father, Chris, literally took their mattresses, the kids' mattresses. 4 kids would be 8 mattresses. I guess there's a mattress and a box spring, and he lined 6 of them around the walls, but 2 on top as a ceiling, and it's a great sounding booth. He said the kids all had to sleep on the floor in sleeping bags for a little while until they got new mattresses, and I think it was serious. And they work a lot, and the father now is Chris has become their engineer. It's a very inspirational episode of a Home Studio Show and Tell. And Sarah, I think it's great. So even your husband does this now, is that correct?
Yes, he does. We were in the booth earlier today doing a two-hander for a new client that we just nabbed from a cold email marketing push that we did last week, and she was developing some animations for e-learning, and her client didn't like the AI voices that she was using. They were pretty bad, and we gave her human voices this morning, and she's delighted. So yay for human voice.
Yeah, we get that a lot. We have a lot of clients who say, by the way, let me say this differently. I think it makes sense for a client to try an AI voice. You should explore something that could save your company money. And we have so many clients who say, I tried it and it just doesn't work. It's remarkable. It's great. I feel like it really enforces us as humans doing this craft. It's terrific. Anyway, Sarah, inspirational, fabulous. Great seeing your space, your editing area. So cool. So very, very cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay. It's a long applause.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And introducing Todd. Todd, how are you doing? Todd Ellis. We're going to do the same dang thing with you, my friend.
Awesome.
Where you're going to just give us a little bit of a biography on how you got into voiceover and I don't know, and everything you want to tell us about that.
Okay, sure. Well, I got into radio right out of high school and did radio for a long time and got into the corporate world at some point, and which was awful. And I always did freelance voiceover, along the way. My first studio, this is going to be just date me horribly, but I built my first studio. It was reel to reels, and I heard somebody talking I think it was on, it was on one of the episodes here about their Tandy board from Radio Shack. I had one of those. Wasn't that here?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I've always been doing freelance in one way, shape, or form. And one of my last corporate job, I had a boss who was very fond of saying, "You've got to be in the right seat on the bus. You've got to be in the right seat on the bus." Well, it turns out I needed to be driving the bus, and the bus is a boat. So I did not do well in the corporate world. So I took the leap of faith and went out full-time freelance. I had some clients at the time, and have been doing it ever since. I've been full-time freelance for almost 25 years now. So um, raised three boys. To Sarah's point, yeah, they've all been voiceovers at some point. Funny story, my youngest, when he was in second grade, I was doing an audition for a Bright Start uh, uh, college savings plan spot at some point. I was auditioning for the dad role, and there was a spot in there for the kid. And I thought, oh, this will be fun. Maybe Joseph can help me win this audition. And so I brought him in, and he did the kid lines and all that stuff. And well, he got hired. I didn't. So,
You know what?
but
Keep it in the family. It's still good.
yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun. So, yeah, so I've been in this studio, in this house for 19 years. The studio's evolved. Um, I do a little bit of everything. I spend most of my time on pharmaceutical and medical narration. I do a lot of pharmaceutical and medical e-learning type stuff, like scripts to sink a smallish third world island nation. Just tons of it, tons of it, and I love doing it. I love doing it. But I've done some stuff for video games. I've done some stuff for some commercial stuff, and I did a couple of casino games, and whatever really floats through my transom that I feel like that I would be good at. I audition less now and keep my auditions to what I really think is in my wheelhouse. So um
And Todd, do you audition less because you've got that regular client vibe
I'm
going?
sure that's part of it. I'm busy. Um but um I just feel like if I get a script that's, obviously if I get a script that's calling for um a I don't know, I can't think of anything at the moment, but a read that I'm just not comfortable with, a read that I just don't think I can pull off, or that I know that other people can pull off better than me, why bother? I don't think that, and not to say that I won't stretch, because I'll stretch. And I know I look like an old man, but I can read, and I'm an old man, but I can but I can read a lot younger than I look. So it's true. Siobhan, you can laugh. It's all right.
It wasn't a personal laugh. It was a funny joke. It wasn't, it was, I believe you.
But yeah, I try to stay in my wheelhouse, and but I'll stretch too. So I don't know, more to say about that. I've been doing this a very, 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 very long time, and I've developed some really great relationships along the way. And at one point, I had a really big client who all of a sudden I wasn't hearing from anymore. It had been a couple of weeks. And I was like, what's going on here? And so I called, and well, they had decided to go a different direction.
Mm.
And I was like, well, crap, that sucks, because they were a really big client. I said, what do you mean a different direction? And they said, well, it was an e-learning company. And they said, we're going to go with more of uh, a cast style read for these things. And I said, okay, I understand. Where are you getting your voices? And I said, well, that's kind of a problem. We're going to the voices and voice 1, 2, 3 and all this stuff. And it's really a problem. We're spending a lot of time trying to find these voices. I said, what if I found those voices for you? And so long story short, I kind of became their voice wrangler, which kept me in the business and kept me getting work, but also allowed me to provide work to my friends and other people. And so if they say, well, we need a 53-year-old African American female, I say, I know that person, and so I can get them that person. So I kind of slid backwards into a little bit of casting as well.
I was literally just gonna type it, but the TLDR is be friends with Todd, y'all. Um, get on the Todd roster. I was going to say also, you have many fans in the chat here. People are
Oh yeah,
best ear for medical jargon. Todd, you were only as old as your newest hat. Todd is the solid man. Lots of
wow.
praise. May I ask you, before we get into, there are questions already, but I have a quick question just to recall where you are located physically in this world.
Oh well, yeah, I should mention that I am absolutely effing nowhere. Uh, I am I am smack in the middle of flyover country. Uh,
Corn belt.
You gonna make us guess? You in
well,
Wyoming?
no,
Where are you?
I'm in a little town in southern Illinois. Think
Okay.
of Chicago, and then think of as far as you can get from Chicago and not be in Kentucky. That's that's where I am.
Oh my
So
God. How did you end up there? Have you always been there?
I actually grew up not far from here, and then got married and left, and we were in Chicago for a little while, and we were, kind of toured the Midwest. How you'll do with radio about 50 miles north of Cairo. I just saw a pop up in the chat. Someone mentioned Cairo, which is Cairo and not Cairo in Illinois.
I'm
Uh,
so glad I didn't read that out loud because you know I would have said Cairo. You know I would have. So,
yeah,
but
where I am. I'm about very close to Carbondale, very close. So like 6 miles, 7 miles from Carbondale. So if you if you think of the bottom third of Illinois, we are equidistant from Missouri, Kentucky, and Indiana. About an hour away from all three of those states. So
okay.
uh,
So there are other questions about your career that I want to get to, but I also, wow, the time is flying. So before we just chat you up like late night podcast, we're gonna get you on to share your studio. So I'm gonna remove myself from this spotlight, and now it's all you, Todd. Are you gonna flip your camera, or how are you gonna? Yeah, okay, cool. So again,
yeah.
just go slow,
Uh,
slower than you
all
think.
right. So flip the camera.
Okay, so
There we go.
this must be where you edit out here, right?
This is my whole studio. This is let me wheel around here. This is everything. It's a 12 by 12 room, or it used to be a 12 by 12 room. Now it's a little bit smaller because I've got 2 layers of half-inch sheetrock with green glue between. Uh, it's a garden level room. The big bat there is an 11-inch thick window plug. The other bats are 3 inches thick. They hang an inch off the wall on a French cleat, so I can take them down and move them if I want to. I've got my 416 up here now. I've got an AT 4050 in there somewhere, and also a Heil PR40. Rest Bob Heil's soul. He passed away just a couple days ago. Got my little monitors here, and everything that I have is right here, pulls out in this little drawer, and is easily accessible to me. When I remodeled my studio a couple of years ago, I traded in an entire rack full of stuff and about a half a mile of cables for the Audient ID14 and the Mac Mini, or I'm sorry, the Mac Studio. And that's about it. I run that into Adobe Audition with the microphone, and that's my chain. They're my headphones that are there mostly just for looks. I hardly ever use them. And what else? That's about it, I think. I'm going to recommend these blue blocker glasses to everyone who looks at a monitor for a long time, because they really help. And the wooden nose thing is something my wife gave me because I kept losing my glasses.
I want to throw in a funny story. The first time I saw a picture of Todd's studio, about 3 or 4 months ago. From the picture, I couldn't tell that the walls had absorptive panels on them. It sort of looks like sheetrock, right? It's a little hard to tell that it's foam. And so I remember thinking, how can you have a clean sound with this room with a hardwood floor, all sheetrock? I had no clue. And I see it's so cool, Todd. It's really, it
It's
looks great.
actually, I made these panels. It's actually recycled denim insulation.
Yeah.
So there's no off gassing. And I did the entire room. Now this was several years ago, but I did the entire room for like $300.
And what's on your ceiling?
I've got a cloud up there.
That's directly above where you record.
Directly above where I record. And then the rest of the ceiling is just your standard sheetrock. It's got some sort of texture sort of stuff on it.
So, you have a lot more hard surface than most studios, right? You have hardwood floor. Most of your ceiling is hard, and your whole countertop is hard. Is there a concern with sound bouncing around, or are you typically on the shotgun mic?
I'm
Your
typically
416?
I'm typically on the 416 mostly, and it is a concrete floor with vinyl plank, and then the vinyl plank has a rubber underlay underneath. So that probably doesn't help at all, but there's that. But yeah, I mean, my noise floor is minus 60 ish, and I don't get a lot of reflection. I mean, I think that I'm a big a proponent of a balance between absorption and what's the opposite of that? Refraction? I don't know, but
Reflective.
reflective. Thank you. So I don't know. I think I've got it balanced pretty good. It might need to be tuned a little bit more, but I still play around with it. I used to have on that filing cabinet there. I used to have another bat just like on the wall hanging there, but it kept falling off and getting in the way and bothering me. So I took it off, and I haven't really noticed a big difference.
How thick is your cloud above where you sit? How thick
It's
is that?
4 inches. It's 4 inches thick.
Oh, that's
Uh,
great.
And my wife complained that my studio was too dark, and so I put these. I had some of these LED strips left over from another project, and so I just tacked them up there. And there's a little rocker switch right by my monitor there, and so I can just turn that anytime I want. I like it dark though.
I think this is a great lesson for everyone. Something we very often talk about in these shows is about being able to utilize a sound pad and using it twice, which Todd is doing. For example, the ceiling or the cloud that's above Todd when he records, his voice can go up there, and that pad is going to absorb most of his voice, but some will get through. And the voice that gets through will hit the ceiling and bounce off the ceiling and come back down toward the microphone. But because it bounces off the ceiling and goes back through that pad, because the pad is suspended, now the pad is working twice. So that wasn't explained super clearly. Hopefully you got it. The sound is going through the pad once, bounces off the ceiling, and then goes through the pad a second time. So that pad works twice as well because it's suspended off the ceiling. And Todd, you said your pads on the walls are also an inch off the walls, which is great. Sound goes through the pad. Any sound that gets through the pad will bounce off the wall and go right back into the pad. So the pad is working twice as hard. So apparently it works great.
Okay, amazing. So, thank you so much for this tour. And David, by the way, y'all, if you don't know, we're talking about reel to reel. I'm gonna like out David here, and David is an OG reel to reel as well. So we got many in the house tonight. All that, which is to say that David is the perfect person to guide us along our home studio tours because of his depth of knowledge. He is an engineer, I would say, first and foremost, right, David? Would you identify that way as like that's your first title in the voiceover world as an engineer?
Yeah, at least first, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
But for all of us, right? We all do different things in the industry, but we all have so many skills. Sarah, you talk so much about the fact that you're not an engineer, you're not an editor, but inevitably you are to some degree. It's a title you have. It's not your favorite title necessarily, but I mean, for anyone who works in this industry, you have to take on different titles. I think it's great. I think very often people come and say to me, people who are new to the industry, say, "Can I just hire someone to build my entire studio or to do this and to do that?" And I say, "Of course you can, but I think you should try it on your own because it helps you learn, right? And even if you don't end up editing all the time on your own, at least you understand what goes into it, and it's helpful." So Todd, this is great. Nice job building these, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I did have I saw a question pop up about the whether or not there was any off gassing with the recycled denim installation, and there's not. That's why I chose it, because as opposed to the pink stuff, which off gases formaldehyde over time, the
Right.
recycled denim is just cotton. It does not.
Yeah, a lot of people use that now. Yeah. It
There was
works great.
There's also a question way earlier on, which I think is a nice one, home studio adjacent, but still it's nice. And it was about when you were saying you took the leap of faith, Todd, when I love how you were like, I got into the corporate world and then I, got out of it. Did the person was asking if it was quite a hustle at first when you took the leap of faith? Like, how was the journey? Was it a rocky road? Did it flow? Did you consider yourself lucky? Did you have to like stick to your guns for a while? If you can tell us a little bit about that.
I was doing a lot freelance anyway, so it was easier, I think. Um, but it was still, you get used to that paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, and it's like, uh, it may not come in next week, that sort of thing. But I was doing a lot of telephony at the time, and one of the companies that I had recently worked for was a telco company, and so I had a lot of connections in that industry across the country that I was able to lean on and say, you know, uh, here's what let's do. I know that you're paying this because I knew. And so, why don't we do an annual contract, and you'll be able to save money, and I'll be able to build in some sort of uh, pad, I guess you would say. But yeah, I just it I was almost to the point that I was losing money by working in the corporate world, but I wasn't quite there yet. Uh, all things being equal, I probably could have waited another year or so, but that's not what happened. I had a parting of the ways uh, on some ethical grounds, and we'll leave it at that.
Hey, that that's very reasonable thing to leave it at. Okay, I want to respect everybody's time. These things always just zoom on by in the Zoom. So I know there were lots of questions, but there were also lots of compliments. Explanation was solid, double effort for suspended pad. Nice. Okay, so with that, oh my God, Lord, y'all, I just want to say, I'm gonna bring Sarah back here. These two guests of ours, amazing people who, by the way, I think I say this every time, but our home studio show and tell is it's a gift to the community, and part of that gift is that these folks here, our stars tonight, are gifting their time. And so this is a free offering because it's something that our studio wants to offer and that people decide to be generous and be a part of. So I just want to throw the love to their places in Illinois and Australia, from LA and New York City, where David and I are. And I also want to drop in the chat, if you are like, oh my goodness, I'm so inspired, as you should be, by the stories of Sarah and Todd, that you want a home studio consultation. Here at Edge Studio, we do offer a private session for that so that you can meet with somebody and talk about your specific space, because again, all of our spaces, we're all unique, and so are our home environments and the things that we might need. Dedication to your craft shows through your efforts in building your amazing studios. Wow. I love the chat tonight. If you want to save the chat, of beautiful messages from people. You're going to look at the little ellipses at the bottom right of your corner underneath of your chat, and there is a save chat option. It will be very sort of text edit standard, but you can keep the thoughts and insights from the humans here tonight. And with that, David, any last words or things I haven't yet said this evening before we let everybody go?
You've said it all well. No, nothing else to add other than just to thank you from me, and I'm sure from everyone out there. And I mentioned at the very beginning of tonight's show, possibly before we began recording, that we have most people watch the show down the road. And what's been really cool is that I've been getting emails on a very regular basis, but at this point, a daily basis, from voice actors around the world. I don't even know where people are, saying that they watch these episodes and they're so inspirational. And a lot of the voice actors who even give tours of their studios now have their clients watch their tour to see, like, wow, like, this voice actor who I'm hiring has a real studio, and it's been just used in so many different applications. I think the show is really fun. I learn something. Todd, you and I were talking about this. In fact, I learn every time I watch one of these episodes, new ways to do things, and it's so cool. So I thank you, and I thank you on behalf of everyone else, Todd and Sarah, and Siobhan. Thank you for doing what you do so well, and everyone, thank you for being here.
David,
Thanks, guys.
yes, as you pointed out earlier, it's been years, and it's been years of community and wonderful voice actors. Todd and Sarah, amazing. Thank you so much for your time and your labor. And y'all, our next session is April 2nd, because then we'll be in the month of April, because we all know what month it is, which is March. Woo! And that's great. And so sweet dreams, y'all, and take care of yourselves. And oh my gosh, we're like ending like right on the dot. We love to see that. Thank you for being a part of this community, and we'll see you very, very soon. Sarah, thank you. Todd, thank you. Truly. Okay, be well, y'all. Take care.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye-bye.